Former Equality and Human Rights Commissioner Professor Swaran Singh analysed incidents in the Tories' complaints database between 2015 and 2020. He found that two-thirds of all the incidents reported related to allegations of anti-Muslim discrimination. The Prime Minister ordered the report in 2019 into how the party handles discrimination allegations. Let's speak to Mohammed Amin, former chairman of the Conservative Muslim Forum. Mohammed, afternoon to you. The report, I noticed, sort of stopped short of saying there was a systemic problem, firstly. What's your response to that?
Good afternoon, Ian. The terms of reference of the Swaran Singh inquiry were very tightly drawn up, and they were to investigate the party's complaints processes, and that's what he's done. I downloaded the report about an hour ago, and I've skimmed through it all very quickly. And I think Swaran Singh has done an excellent job within his terms of reference. He's been extremely thorough. He's got a number of recommendations, which, if the party implements them, will significantly improve the way the complaints process works and may well increase confidence in people at large that the party is serious and transparent about dealing with complaints. The report doesn't address the really important wider issue of what is it about the Conservative Party that leads anti-Muslim bigots to think they have a home there, but that was outside its terms of reference.
Yeah. I mean, is it, and I'm just kind of thinking aloud here, in comparison to what was going on with Labour with anti-Semitism, and I think that was a slightly different thing in the sort of endemic nature of the allegations of anti-Semitism, was that somewhere deep within the entire philosophy of the Labour Party, the ideology of being in that part of the political spectrum potentially led you into anti-Semitism. Whereas looking at the Conservative stuff, it seems to me there's a lot of allegations of, the old swivel-eyed councillor who still thinks a joke about brown people is quite funny. So two slightly different things. Neither is a good look. But is that really what this Conservative report review is more about? Is it that kind of type of Conservative who hasn't yet got on board with the 21st century more than a hatred that is endemic within their ideology?
Well, the report is entirely about the complaints process, because that's what it had to be about under the terms of reference. I was often asked by people, did I think the leadership of the Conservative Party was anti-Muslim, to which my answer was always, and still is, unequivocally, no, I do not have any reason to believe that it is. And I think that is a fundamental difference between the anti-Muslim issue in the Conservative Party and the anti-Semitism issue in the Labour Party, where there were serious suspicions that the top levels of the Labour Party were sympathetic to the anti-Semitic views being expressed by some of the membership.
Sure.
So I think that is a fundamental difference.
So what kind of, you're right, the complaints procedure was being looked at here. As far as you can ascertain, what was the nature of most of those complaints? Was it about people putting inappropriate humour on social media and then sharing it and not quite understanding that certain jokes are not funny anymore around certain people? Is that the nature of what we're dealing with here? I'm not downplaying anything. I'm just intrigued to know at what level this Islamophobia was taking place. I mean, the Prime Minister's own comments about letterboxes and Islamic headdresses, I think, is even mentioned in this.
The report itself mentions a number of other dossiers of evidence that have been put forward in the past. And I have looked at a number of those dossiers because they're in the public domain. The Muslim Council of Britain published something which is 26 pages long. Hope Not Hate have published things. There was something on one of the online newspapers. There's been a lot of this stuff published. And I've often been interviewed about specific incidents. It's worse than you're implying by saying it was just some people telling off-color jokes. It was much worse than that. But the key thing is that this was behavior by local councillors, grassroots members. Occasionally, MPs have said things that I would regard as anti-Muslim. But it's never gone to the top in terms of the leadership. I think that is the difference.
And yes, between that and what was going on with Labour, I get that. Where do the Conservatives go next with this? What do they do with this? This sounds, I mean, the report wasn't there to find guilt on specific individuals, but does this now need the Prime Minister to stand up and say, look, there's issues, we can learn from it. There's been all the usual things that get wheeled out by any leader when something like this happens. And some would say it's quite difficult for him because he's been accused of this very thing himself.
Well, one of the most discouraging pages of the Swaran Singh report, he takes about a page and a half talking about the one-to-one session he had with the Prime Minister about his Telegraph column. And even now, Mr. Johnson is basically trying to brush the Telegraph column about Muslim women, burqas, letterboxes, and bank robbers aside, saying it's been misunderstood. He's never apologized for it. He still isn't willing to apologize for it. Until he does that, I mean, the Conservative Party's vote share amongst British Muslims has never been great. In 2010, it was about 15%. But by 2015, with a lot of hard work from many people, including the Conservative Muslim Forum and people like me, that had gone up to 25%. Since then, it's gone backwards. It went backwards in 2017. It went further backwards in 2019. And that's due to a failure to address these issues. What started with the Zach Goldsmith mayoral campaign of 2016, where he made a number of anti-Muslim comments against Sadiq Khan, and it's continued to grow.
Yeah, kind of. It sort of backfired really well. It certainly did on him. Mohammed, thank you for your time, sir. We appreciate that. Mohammed Amin, he's the former chairman of the Conservative Muslim Forum. You heard what he's a conservative himself, so he has no axe to grind in terms of wanting to have a pop at the party for no reason. It's his party, certainly has been.